Thank you for joining us for today's security awareness training on business continuity. Our workshop mission is to help you get more from the technology you already have and introduce you to the new technologies you need to know about. The login information and dial-in code are listed below. Just a little housekeeping. This is a listen-only call. It's for call clarity to cut down on ambient noise. If you have questions, email info@icaro.com. Email us anytime, by the way, if you have questions, or call 978-692-4200. So it's a timely presentation today because today, March 31st, is World Backup Day. And a couple of stats from the World Backup Day website: 30% of people have never backed up. That's shocking, but true. 29% of disasters just caused by accident. And don't underestimate the number of accidents are caused by just people accidentally deleting stuff. 113 phones are lost or stolen every minute. Think about the data that's on your employees' smartphones. And 1 in 10 computers will be infected with viruses each month. Another report that recently came out, just to kind of give you a sense of what's going on, is a report from IT World on passwords and security. So 27% of U.S. workers would sell their passwords. That's pretty shocking. A third of workers use public file sharing outside of company controls. So we talked about this in previous training sessions, but that's basically the use of Dropbox, other free consumer programs like that. So your valuable company information might be out there on Dropbox, basically not secure. It's really a convenience tool. It's not a secure place to store stuff. You really need to get a handle on where your stuff is. 65% of workers admitted using the same passwords in multiple locations. 32% shared passwords with coworkers. So the state of security really relies on the end user, and the end users aren't all that reliable. The game changer in all this is the recent ransomware viruses that are really bad. A hospital in LA recently paid $17,000 in Bitcoin to hackers. And they got a ransomware virus. Didn't directly say this in the article, but clearly they didn't have a business continuity plan or a backup, so they relied on paper records for a week and then wound up paying the ransom. So devastating to an organization. On the World Backup Day website, it's kind of for fun, but it really is something important to think about. And they have a pledge that you can take on the website. But we encourage all our customers to regularly review and make sure you don't have to understand all the technical lingo that's associated with backup and VMs and this and that. But you got to really know that you've protected your business. And that's what the key is. So the perfect storm as it relates to data is more and more data is being created every day. It's basically doubling every 2 years. Offices are going paperless, so all this stuff is being stored. The value of data is increasing. So as more and more of your business is conducted electronically, a bigger portion of the value of your transactions is all stored digitally. And then greater risk of losing data. There's ransomware, there's server failures. Everybody remembers Hurricane Sandy not too long ago. There's just a lot of different ways that you can lose your data. So you have more data, it's more valuable, and your risks of losing it have also increased, all at the same time. So what's important in coming up with a strategy is really evaluating your risk. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. So hard drives, if you understand how hard drives work, it's a miracle that any hard drives work. They spin at 7,500, 15,000, 10,000 RPM. And if you think about the old records where 33 RPM, think of 15,000 RPM. It's a miracle they work. So when they fail, it's not too surprising, and a lot of them do fail. And it may have never happened to you, but in our line of business, working with hundreds of businesses, over the years, we've seen many hard drives fail. Another really important thing to think about is your recovery time objective. How long can your business be down without affecting the bottom line? So if you think of backup as the ability to recover from a disaster, What we're going to be talking about today is continuity, which is the ability to basically maintain uptime. So can you be down for seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks? How long can you afford to be down? Because this is the one thing that people really underestimate until it's too late. So SMBs, small and medium businesses, are at greater risk. You don't have the vast IT department, the CIO, the vast IT department of a bigger business. Limited resources to recover from that disaster. Just listening to a presentation last night, surprisingly, only a third of small businesses are actually working with an MSP, that's a managed service provider like Ikaru. So only a third are actually working with a real IT firm. A lot of folks are using a computer guy, friend of the business. They haven't really even put the things in place. They're not serious about protecting the business. And only 15% have a continuity plan in place. So it's a pretty widespread problem. And yet all the negatives apply just as strongly to small business as they do to big business. So downtime is a business concern, and I think that a lot of folks, at Ikaru, we love technology, we read about it all the time, we work with it all the time, and we might get caught up in the lingo, but really what this all boils down to is a business concern. So unplanned downtime, how you get back up again, if you virtualize and all these different things that you can do if you're on a business a backup and disaster recovery server with us. There's lots of different options, but it's a business concern. What's your cost of downtime? Having a rock solid backup is going to mean you can get your data back. Continuity talks about how long is that going to take. And if you don't know the cost of your downtime, of what financial impact a week of downtime will have on your business, you really can't calculate what you need, what it's worth to put into place to invest to protect your business. Very important to know. And also keep in mind compliance regulations like HIPAA, mass data security law, etc. You need to back up your data. So protecting your data is protecting your business. You think of it, you have business insurance. You really have to think of your backup and continuity in the same light. A lot of people think, well, I can recreate my data. That's kind of not possible. I don't even know, this is from National Computer Security Association. I don't even know how these numbers could be possibly calculated, but just to have an admin say you're going to re-enter everything you've got. These are some numbers they've thrown around. Medical data, you can't even recreate it. You'd be in serious trouble with HIPAA if you were to lose that data, but it really is not feasible to recreate your data. Cost of downtime, this is something that we really don't see a lot of customers really thinking through. Overall, I mentioned that presentation I listened to last night. On average, only 15% of small businesses have a continuity plan in place. And I would say of the larger businesses we work with, they've got backup and disaster recovery in place, failover server virtualization, all those right things so they can be right up and running. But you really have to figure out if you can't communicate, if you have no email, what would it actually cost to restore your IT system? So you might have a backup, but if you're using a consumer class service like a Carbonite, very low cost, it could take 2 weeks to download all your stuff. So think about the impact. Now, if you're a micro business, you might say, okay, great, it's okay, I could take a break. Or, the nature of some businesses aren't very transaction or time oriented, but most businesses have a pretty high cost of downtime, and it's not really obvious until you've gone through the process of calculating it. So the good news is that you can keep your business running. So, we're a broken record on the topic of data backup. You got to have your data backed up. You can't recreate it. You got to have it backed up. The next thing you need to think about is what's your cost of downtime and how fast you need to be up and running again. And that's going to determine if and what continuity plan you need to have in place. So really what continuity looks at is it includes the backup of all business critical data, but it's also the ability to keep your business up and running during the disaster. So complete data restoration and also knowing data restoration, but also knowing you could run on a failover device as needed or in the cloud. So traditional backup doesn't really keep up. Like we said, depending on where your backup is, your backup, if you have a consumer class backup and a lot of data, it's going to take a long time to get that back on your network. High risk of human error. If some people still are storing stuff on USB drives and relying on taking it out of the office each day, that's a huge risk. You could forget to do it. You could drop the drive. You could lose the drive. Big problem there. You might have some encryption. If there's any protected information on it, you're violating mass data security law if you're walking around with that not encrypted. A lot of problems with it. It absolutely is better than nothing. You must back up your data, but what you want to really start thinking about is intelligent business continuity, where you could say, okay, my server crashed or my PC crashed, but I'm up and running again on this other system, or I'm up and running in the cloud. So we talk about the 1-2 punch. So you have backup and disaster recovery, secure backup of all your data. You want to be able to get that back after a disaster. And then kind of the next phase is that continuity where, gee, can you actually maintain uptime? What if all the power, the internet's down or your server's totally crashed? Maybe there's a theft and anything can happen. Can you still be up and running again? How fast can you be up and running again? So backup is about protecting your data in the event of some disaster, and continuity is all about uptime. So if you have a local only backup, that's great for quick restores. Your backup over 1 gigabit, your local network is going to be real fast. But what happens if the power's out, the device fails? What if the box is just gone? So you're solving a problem, but you're not solving the complete problem. You're not protecting if there's a building disaster, etc. You're not protecting against that. So very important to understand that. Another really important point, without getting too technical, is file versus image. With file backup, it's kind of the most basic backup. You're saying, okay, here's my critical stuff, back it up. With image backup, you're saying, we're just going to take a copy of everything. And that includes all your settings, your programs, basically everything. So the good news there is because it's everything, you don't run the risk of missing things. And a really common thing is that we see out in the field is people will update, for example, QuickBooks. In a newer version, the files are written somewhere else. Their backup has already been defined as protecting a certain amount of files and folders on the hard drive, and the new one's not protected. Hey, the backup's running every day. It's great. It's just not backing up probably the most important set of files in your business. That's the kind of thing that you can risk with a file and folder backup. It's lower cost, so that's a positive, but you got to think through what's the negative. The other thing is with instant virtualization, with that image backup, you can do an image that you just store locally. The more sophisticated way of doing it is an image that you're storing on a device that can actually then run virtually, basically as a replica of your critical system. So we recently had a situation with one of our clients that does have a backup and disaster recovery server in place. An electrician was doing work in the building. Basically, it was described as an explosion. This fellow, nobody was hurt, but huge amount of damage to a lot of equipment in the building. But this customer was and power went out, so I think they lost a drive on their server that had to get replaced, but while that was being done, they were able to run on the failover server. So, I mean, that was fantastic. So while other people were other businesses that were in that office park building really had a hard time, they hardly missed a beat. So that's what continuity is about. It's an image-based solution. Basically, you're guaranteeing that you cover everything. You're putting that image locally and in the cloud. So that's what we talk about with continuity, because you could be up and running again. You don't have to wait till you buy a new server. You don't have to wait till you buy new equipment. It's already there and running. If the whole building is wiped out, you can be running virtually in the cloud. So you have the ability to get back in action a lot sooner. So we're really, it's World Backup Day. We're asking people to rethink backup. If you're not backing up, that's the absolute bare minimum you have to do to protect your business. And we really want you to think about continuity. What is the cost of your downtime? If you've got a rock solid backup, and you can be back up and running in a week because you got to restore the files, reload your programs, buy the new hardware, wait till it comes in, be down even longer than that possibly. If that's okay, then that's fine, but that's a conscious decision that you make as a business. All right, so thank you for joining us today. For more information, check out our blog. Also, we post a lot of news on Twitter, lots of technology news that's relevant for small and medium businesses. Visit us on Facebook. We try to put information out in a whole bunch of different places. People have their favorites, but please send us your questions, ask us. We really want to encourage folks to think through what you're doing. Are you protecting your business? Do you understand what your downtime might be in the event of a disaster? And do you understand the cost of that downtime? That's going to allow you to put basically your budget together of what it's worth for your business to protect it and understand that impact. So with that, we're going to conclude. Call us anytime, 978-692-4200. Thank you very much.